Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Happy Tuesday and welcome back to the Dynasty Heat Seekers live stream presented by RotoHeat.com. As always, we are here to bring you entertainment, some fun, some good takes, some great guests, and tonight is no different. We have the man, the myth, my partner in crime, Josh from Front Yard Fantasy is joining us. Josh, how are you, my friend? And thank you for joining us. I know that you just had a show a few hours ago, but how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm having a great day. The energy's feeling good. I had a couple shows. I was on the Podathon for Polly's Playhouse, and then our show that we do every day at 3:00, and I feel good. I could, again, I say this all the time, but I could literally talk to a brick wall about fantasy. So thank you for having me on. I enjoy this.
Speaking of brick wall of fantasy, Rob Sullivan, how are you?
I've been called a lot of things on this show in a lot of places. I don't know if I've ever been referred to as a brick wall, but I'll do what I can to live up to the billing. Josh, it is absolutely our pleasure to have you here. We are huge fans of what you and your two co-hosts are doing over there. Congrats on the Friday Night FanDuel show, by the way. That is super cool. Yeah. You know, for longtime listeners or viewers of this, you'll remember that we got together with the Front Yard boys, I'd say about a month or so ago, and we did this teams poll perception, and Brad and Josh were put together as a team, and they were a complete shit show. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. It's going to be awesome.
The most electrifying duo in fantasy sports entertainment, right?
Completing each other's sentences. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a shit show. That's one way to put it. It was fun, though. We had a great time.
It was absolutely a blast.
We vibed, you know.
We make fantasy fun is what happens. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, tonight we are going to attempt to talk busts. But as always, if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. We will answer them live. We love to interact with you guys. We do appreciate you hanging out with us, as always. I do want to note, though, as we get to the season, the schedule is going to change. We will be bringing back the Wednesday night live stream for redraft specifically. Rick is working hard on DFS content. The Monday show will drop off, so no IDP on Monday nights because I'm not competing with Monday Night Football. I'd rather watch the Mannings talk. And then that'll turn into some actual written content. So stick with us through the season. We'll have some things changing up, but we're going to give you some great stuff. With that being said, Sully, what's going on in the news today?
There's a little bit going on up there. First one I'm going to touch on is, according to Cincinnati Bengals beat writers, the offense is a disaster in Cincinnati right now. Joe Burrow's missing wide open receivers. Jamar Chase is dropping passes. The offensive line that allegedly is better this year is getting beaten by the defensive side of the football. And I think the part that stands out to me the most is Cincinnati doesn't have the greatest defense. So, Josh, what do you make of all this? Is Cincinnati an overhyped offense heading into 2021?
So personally, no, I don't necessarily think they are an overrated offense, not from an NFL or real life football context. And I think that's really just because maybe personally, I don't necessarily put them as a top tier offense at all.
Sure.
I never really thought of them like that. So my expectations weren't really extremely high to begin with. I mean, I guess their biggest concern by the community as a whole is their offensive line, but I do think they'll be improved this year from that perspective. So I'm not too worried about the offensive line, but from a fantasy context, their offense does have some crazy weapons, right? They have Jamar Chase. He's a stud. T. Higgins, he proved just how good he was last year. Tyler Boyd's one of the best slot receivers in the league. I fully expect Joe Mixon to be a top tier running back. So as long as Joe Burrow is back and healthy and he can play as well or close to it as last year, I fully expect this offense to provide a lot of fantasy value for years to come, really.
So you don't think they're a top offense, and you don't think they're overhyped, but you think Chase is a stud, Mixon's a top 10 running back. Yeah. Higgins showed us what he could do last year. Boyd is Boyd, and as long as Burrow is okay, they'll be good. So aren't they then a top-tier offense?
I still don't put them there. Not this year. That's the thing.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm saying for years to come. Maybe not this year. Going into 2022, I think they're primed, and that scares me as a Ravens fan, I'll be honest. But I think that their defense is pretty poor. So they're going to provide a lot of fantasy relevance when it comes down to it.
Gotcha. Brad, what do you say?
I think I subscribe to the Craig Reith line of thinking they got to prove it before I really start to buy into it. So we know that Burrow had some talent, showed some things last year, then got blown out and hurt, and now he's playing like he's trying to be careful. So does he come back and really start to let it rip as he feels more comfortable on that leg? I still think they need a few more drafts before they're really ready to start making some noise, if at all, because remember, this AFC North is a tough division. You know, you have a Cleveland team that's not going anywhere anytime soon, that's still young, very deep. Pittsburgh is aging, but they're starting to draft better, so you're bringing quality talent. Then you got a Baltimore team who always seems to be in the mix and seems to be consistently in the conversation. So it's going to be some time before they're ready. My biggest concern is does Burrow take the next step, even though he appears to be, you know, and it's a week into camp, so people need to just relax. Like, yes, the team's going to look like crap because they're trying to gel. Jamar and Burrow haven't been on the same field for well over a year together in this type of atmosphere, so just give them time. You know, I'm not too terribly concerned by the news because we haven't even got to the first full week of preseason games. Still got 2 days. What do you think, Sully?
I don't know. I think you're probably right, but I do think there's something to it. You know, Burrow was good last year before his injury, but he was wildly inaccurate on throws downfield. That looks like that has continued. Jamar Chase, we haven't seen him on the football field in over a year. He's having trouble separating in practice with those defensive backs. So I don't know. I think Joe Mixon has a good year, and I think they're going to have to lean on him early in the season until they can get things kind of gelled and rolling and moving in a forward progression in the way that they'd like it to be. But I don't know. I think that I think we've been, as a fantasy community, a little bit quick to anoint this as a top fantasy offense, personally.
From a dynasty context, though, they're building that. I want all these guys in a dynasty league.
Yeah, I think
Tyler Boyd, who will probably leave sometime soon, but
I probably want him more than anyone just because of his acquisition cost, right? Like, yeah. I think there still isn't a tight end in that offense. And I still think that Boyd is probably in the slot a lot, and Burrow's sort of safety outlet as a tight end would typically be in another offense. So I like Tyler Boyd. I like all the receivers, don't get me wrong. And I'm a huge Burrow guy. So I'm hoping it comes together. I just don't know if it will.
Well, and Tyler Boyd does nothing but produce. I mean, like every year, I think he's had over 100 targets like the last 3 years running, and you know he's getting 80-ish catches a season. So, I mean, how could you not want that with as cheap as he is to acquire?
Agree. All right, next up is there's a report from Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com, whoever the heck that is, that basically Michael Thomas ghosted the New Orleans Saints this offseason. Sean Payne was calling him. The offensive coordinator was calling him. Everyone was calling Michael Thomas, and he wasn't returning anyone's calls. It turns out, allegedly, that the team asked him to have his ankle surgery at the end of last season. He went and got a second opinion, didn't like the first opinion, so he put it off and hoped to rehab it. And then he finally returned some calls, and he shows up, and yes, that ankle needs a surgical procedure. He has a little bit of bad blood in history from last season when he was suspended for slugging. I can't remember his name, but same guy that Wims from Chicago slapped around a little bit. Must be a great guy. But anyway, are we starting to see the beginning of the end of Michael Thomas in New Orleans, Brad?
I want to see him in Detroit, so I hope so. Like, that'd be great if Dan Campbell and company went and actually traded for a real wide receiver. So, you know, Terrell Williams and Rashad Perriman aren't my 1 and 2 come week 1. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the Saints are a team that really should look to transition. Some of these aging players, move them on, because I don't know that they've got their quarterback. They have an offensive line. They've got a running game. They've got no wide receiver depth. I mean, right now you're trotting out Traquan Smith and a bunch of low-level drafted or college free agents at wide receiver. I mean, why not? I mean, this would be the time to start thinking about, if I'm the Saints, moving on. Your defense is in flux. Some of it might be in trouble in the law, you know, with Williams. I mean, there's just a lot of like really strange times. Like, if I was a head coach looking to keep my job and make sure that I had a few more years, say, listen, Drew's gone, time to blow this thing up. Like, Alvin Kamara is our guy right now. We'll kind of feed him the rock and then we'll move on. But I would be okay doing that if I were the Saints before, Michael Thomas gets any older and any other injuries come up, or he just ups and retires because he hates the team or whatever his beef is. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, Brad, I pretty much completely agree. I mean, the Saints don't look like they're in the greatest situation right now. And, Michael Thomas isn't necessarily the youngest guy in the world anymore. He does have all the talent in the world when he's healthy, but at the same time, I think there's maybe another side of the story a little bit too. I just seen some things that essentially lead me and others to believe that the Saints highly influenced Michael Thomas to not have surgery last year on this similar injury where they were like, come on, it's Breeze's final run. We could really use you. And I think he's kind of being petty about that a little bit. And that's why he not return calls. He's kind of blaming them maybe a little bit for it. I don't know if that's the case. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, we're speculating here regardless, right? But when it comes down to it, it doesn't look good. This is bad looks. This sucks to hear. I think his time with the Saints is coming to an end.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And apparently inside of his contract is he has an out at the end of next season. So it could very well be a mutual parting of ways, or it could be the Saints saying, we're kind of done with you and want to shop him and move him. Or it could be just Thomas opting out and bailing and moving on his own. Like you said, there's no disputing the fact that he's a talented wide receiver, and every injury-free season, he's been a top 12 fantasy wide receiver. He's the only guy drafted between 2010 and 2020 to do that in 4 consecutive seasons to start his career. So the talent is there. And I would like to see him stay there, but at the same time, I can understand why maybe he's moving on. All right, I got one more for you. Unfortunately, this one hurts my heart. Rashad Bateman went down in practice today. Didn't look very good. Looks like it's a groin type of injury or some soft tissue injury. The Ravens, I'm still got these Bengals in my head. The Ravens are already dealing with Marquis Brown and his sort of camp-long soft tissue injury of his own. So does this open the door for a Tylan Wallace? Does it open the door for Sammy Watkins, who apparently has been looking good in camp? Josh, you're the Ravens guy. I'm still saying Bengals. You're the Ravens guy. Tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, like you guys know, I'm a Ravens fan, so it just like you, it hurts my heart a lot. And I'm a Rashad Bateman fan. I love the talent. I think he could be great. This coming into this year, does this open the door for Watkins and Wallace? Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely opens the door for them because the door just had a crack. They needed something like this to happen. So, but am I drafting them in my fantasy leagues? If I had a redraft league right now, I don't think I'm touching them still. It's so they will be good for the team from a NFL standpoint. I think they're really going to help the team out. But I don't expect them to be extremely fantasy relevant. Maybe when it comes down to it, week 1, and as we get closer to the season, I'm going to reevaluate. Don't get me wrong.
Totally.
If Marquis Brown and Rashad Bateman, they're still not practicing, they're still not playing, then yeah, I am absolutely willing to draft these guys. There's going to be relevant pass catchers here. But Mark Andrews is just the biggest benefactor when it comes down to it, right? In my mind.
Yeah.
It's tough because in the last 2 drafts, they drafted 4 receivers. I think
Devin Duvernay.
Yeah, Devin Duvernay was the one out of Texas that I really remember being a big fan of, and then they drafted him, and I went, well, that doesn't make any sense because they drafted James Prochet and Marquise Brown and Duvernay. Like, oh, okay, there's not that many balls to go around for a team that doesn't pass as much as they run. So looking at this offseason, it made me go, okay, this is even weirder. They brought in Sammy Watkins, and they drafted 2 more receivers. Like, what? So, I mean, the Bateman injury – they didn't have to rush him along anyway. This is a playoff team, even with last year's weak wide receiver core. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag in year 1 anyway, until the guys that are the lead receivers kind of take control of this team. Sammy Watkins, they brought him in. They paid him enough money that they were going to put him on the field. He was going to get some action. So I really think, I know fantasy owners were super pumped about Rashad Bateman going into the season, but he's a rookie in a offense that is very evenly balanced when it comes to the run pass. I don't think Bateman was going to be a huge fantasy producer this year with what was there already. Marquis Brown's going to be the guy that take the top off the defense. Sammy Watkins will have 2 or 3 big games before he gets hurt. And I mean, there's, you've got all those things that are going to happen throughout the season. So it's like, give this kid time, let him get healthy. It's week to week right now anyway with the groin injury. So
yeah,
I wouldn't get too worried, but I also wouldn't go crazy either way. Just wait it out. I mean, kind of like the Burrow situation and the Bengals. Wait it out. Things will be fine. Rashad Bateman's a wide receiver 1 in the future at some point, I'm sure, a back end, high end wide receiver 2. Exactly. I absolutely agree. So
my dog is not a Ravens fan, apparently.
Or maybe he's just upset about the injuries.
She is pretty big.
Sorry.
Yeah, Bateman fan. So
I just thought it was getting confrontational.
No. There's no confrontation at Roto Heat at all, man. Everything's just calm blue oceans. Everything's great. I don't know. I look at a Ravens team last year that had Des Bryant dressing and playing. So there's room for receivers there.
How dare you?
I don't. Miles Boykin might actually make the team now because of this. I think he was on the roster bubble to start.
That's true.
Forgot about Duvernay. Really like him and hope that he has some kind of a role in the offense. Shifty guy that, I really like. But I think you're right, Brad. I think they just go back to, and Josh, you're right as well. It's going to be Mark Andrews, Dobbins, Edwards, Lamar, and they'll just win football games. So I just don't think we're going to see the passing side or alleged passing side. I don't know, to Brad's point, I don't know if we would have seen it anyway, but I think it takes some time. Hopefully we get Bateman back. Hopefully he doesn't miss very much time because even as a rookie, I think he has the ability to do some pretty special things.
And to that point, they have a great defense too. So maybe, I expect them to pass more this season, but maybe they can, like you guys are saying, they can win games without it.
Totally. That's it for me, Bradley.
Well, and it isn't. We're not done with this conversation yet. Okay. The tough thing is Lamar completed 64% of his passes last year. He wasn't terribly inaccurate. Greg Roman is what is holding this offense back from really being an offense that's focused on the pass. Don't get me wrong. Greg Roman is a good coach. He's been very successful in the NFL, but he's the one that likes to run, to set up the pass, to do a lot of that. So I don't want people to think that it's somehow just going to become this big passing offense because the offensive coordinator, that isn't historically his game. So
you're right.
You're absolutely correct.
We've seen it in San Francisco and Buffalo and other places. So for sure.
He needs a rushing quarterback. That's for sure. But he's great with one. He knows how to utilize that, a weapon like that.
He does. I mean, think about it. He had Kaepernick, Josh Allen, and now he's got Lamar Jackson. I mean,
and Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor. Yep. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't want people to overcomplicate the situation. Lamar Jackson's not holding him back. He completed 64% of his passes. He does a good job.
I agree with that.
And I did see that Amari Cooper came off PUP, so it looks like his injury is really not a concern. He got activated today. So
he did.
For those of you that are,
I missed that. That's awesome.
So it's good news. I mean, Amari Cooper is still their best receiver. I know CeeDee Lamb is somehow already better than him, but
I think he is.
Still the man. I think he is.
Debatable.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is, all Amari Cooper does is produce, and people always crap on him.
There's nothing wrong with Amari Cooper. I think he's a very good fantasy and real life wide receiver. So is CeeDee Lamb. I'll bet you 25 Roto Heat bucks that CeeDee Lamb has more fantasy points than Amari Cooper this year. How's that?
Is it like Jeffrey dollars? What is
sure.
That? I don't even know.
Turn it in for some merch at the end of the year, man.
Hey, you know what? If Amari Cooper's already done, Dallas can trade him to Detroit. We can go get Michael Thomas and Amari Cooper, and I'd be fine.
And Jared Goff will just lead you to the promised land.
DeAndre Swift, but that too. Sure.
You can have Kirk Cousins in his plexiglass box if you want to play your quarterback.
No, thank you.
Cool.
I
think I'm done now, Brad.
Real fast though. Dynasty, CeeDee Lamb, redraft Amari Cooper still for me if he's completely healthy. But in redraft, it's this close. In Dynasty, it's this close. So.
Yeah, it's CeeDee Lamb or CeeDee Lamb for me, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, so does that opinion change if Ben DiNucci's the starting quarterback?
But he's not going to be.
Well, I don't know.
Don't put that into the universe.
But that's not fair. You can use that narrative with any team in the league.
But I didn't. I used it with Dallas.
All right, I'll be quiet and let Josh answer your silly question.
I CeeDee Lamb played. They both played fine with him. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to grow in the offense this year. So I think it's the same deal. They're close, but they both get pushed down.
With Cooper missing OTAs in the early portion of camp, it's enabled CeeDee Lamb to line up outside and play all over the place. And they're quickly discovering what they actually have in this talent. So he played, I think it was about 78 or 82% of his snaps in the slot last year. I think he moves around and goes outside. I think Michael Gallup, unfortunately, is going to be the victim in that offense, probably. But dynasty-wise, I'd go buy Gallup now because I think he's landing somewhere else next year, and I think he could be quite a find.
Yes.
Well, and even with the lack of good quarterback play last year, all three of those receivers had over 100 targets, if I remember.
Yeah,
so I don't see why they can't support them all. If Dak is there, why not?
And Blake Jarwin?
Or Dalton Schultz or whomever. I mean, what did they? No. Okay, now I got to look at the numbers. So,
well, Dalton Schultz, if you look at his career numbers, was nothing until last year.
Okay,
nothing.
So Schultz had 89 targets last year.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jarwin got hurt, so he didn't have any targets. I mean, they still, 300 plus target receivers and 89 targets to a tight end and 71 targets to Zeke and 40 to Pot.
That's a lot.
There's a lot of targets in this offense to go around.
And there's an extra game this year. They might throw the ball 700 times.
I mean, why can't they support three receivers?
Okay, everybody in Dallas is good.
Buy them all.
I want them all.
I'm still I mean, Gallup's still, for my money, Gallup's the one. If I'm spending Roto Heat bucks, I'm going after Michael Gallup because
you don't have to spend many of those bucks.
You don't have very many. You only have right now. You have 25, and after the bet, you're gonna have none. So you don't have any Roto Heat bucks to spend.
Well, then I'll spend your Roto Heat bucks. So
okay,
there you go.
But Craig wants to spend them at Roto Feet. So I don't know what's happening.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
It depends on the exchange rate. All right, so. Yeah, Rick says the offense can definitely support three.
Has that ever happened? 3 1K wide receivers?
Not
I mean, a 17-game season, so it's more likely this year. But
I'm about to say, it got close last year, though. Look at CeeDee Lamb had 935, Michael Gallup had 843, and then Amari had 1,114. So it got dangerously close. And I spent all my Roto Heat money on vacations. So
we've had enough of them. So that's true.
All right, so I wanted to bring that up that Amari Cooper was healthy. The fun side note. Rick says Arizona did it. I can either confirm or deny, but
if Rick says Arizona did it, Arizona did it.
He tends to be the guy
Arizona
that knows
did
the numbers.
With
when did Arizona do it?
Well, it would have been probably Larry Fitzgerald,
Floyd, Brown, and Fitz.
Okay, so I remember Brown. I forgot Michael Floyd. I forgot about him completely. As a
John Floyd. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
I would have assumed Anquan Boldin would have been one of those two receivers, but I guess
would that have been in the Warner days?
Yeah.
Anquan Boldin was with the Ravens then. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was. He was already gone by then. Well, there you go.
This is fun. This is fun. I'm learning stuff and having fun.
Fun fact.
Natty Daddy.
And welcome, buddy. Josh delivers the goods.
Oh,
I don't know. Where'd you pull those out of?
I don't know.
Don't worry about that. Don't ask questions you don't want to answer.
Please don't show the goods on stream. All right, that's for the Friday show. I heard.
Josh has active hands. That's all I know.
All right, so that what is he? Joe Boo? What is that? Marbles from Major League?
Oh, that's a good take.
He doesn't know what to do with his hands. It's Ricky Bobby. That does make sense that you're Ricky Bobby. You're either first or last, so that does make sense.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to talk busts tonight. And this is a very loaded question because there's a lot of ways we can look at it. We can look at it from a redraft perspective, a dynasty perspective, rookies that could bust. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we could take this. So, Sully, I'm going to let you start with it first. And I want you to throw out your first because I know you had a few. Throw out one, and we'll let it go. We'll let it go with you first to see how bad it goes first.
All right. So my first one is Aaron Rodgers, and the reason I'm going with Aaron Rodgers is last week, if you tuned in, we had Nick Whalen on. He talked at length about their offensive line and how it's regressed this season. They lost their center. Bakhtiari's not back yet, all these types of variable things. PFF has dropped them down to the 14th overall offensive line from being the second graded offensive line for, I believe, the previous 4 seasons. The Packers scored 64 touchdowns last season. That's massive. They're going to regress off of that, first of all. I wrote some notes because I knew I'd need it for this one. Since 2011, there's been 37 teams that have scored 50 or more touchdowns in a single season. 29 of them have previous or next year's history because 8 of those actually happened last season. Only 3 of those offenses improved upon their touchdowns from the season before. Aaron Rodgers threw the ball and a ridiculous 30 times inside the opponent's 5-yard line last year, highest in the NFL, 3rd highest since 2011. So I see them running the ball a little bit more in those situations. I see the offensive line making it a little bit tougher on Aaron Rodgers. Do I still want Aaron Rodgers on my fantasy team? Yeah. But is he going to be the MVP? No. Is he going to be a top 2 or 3 fantasy quarterback? No. I think he's going to be a 10, 11, 12, 13 quarterback, which is totally fine. But I think when people look at Aaron Rodgers and what their expectations are of him, I think that's sort of a bust. And my only concern is that him and his mindset with Devontae Adams going another FU tour to the NFL, and he has another season. But I think he's a bust.
Wow. There's a lot to take in with that one. Is that, I mean, so I want to.
Your reaction was priceless when you first said Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I like it because it's hot. Like, we like hot stuff here. I get it.
Super hot.
But, so since 2008, when he took over as the starting quarterback, I mean, he had some career numbers last year. I mean, his completion percentage of 70% was, 2-3 points higher than most of his other seasons that he's had. I mean, looking at his numbers, I guess I could see where he's probably not going to get to that point. But with what he wants to prove to the Packers in the league, man, when this dude's pissed, he somehow just destroys everybody. And he holds a grudge. And with him and Adams holding a grudge, I don't want to bet against that. I would say that I can't argue when you look at what the fantasy quarterback looks like right now. I get it. He probably could fall because the rushing upside is not nearly as there as it is with some of these other guys, Kyler, Lamar, Josh, and all these guys. So I could see where he could slide down. I really don't think he slides down much further than like 8, maybe 7, 8, 9 is kind of where I would think his kind of floor would be, but I think he still has the ceiling to get up in the top 4.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good one because it really is one of those where you got to think about it like, I don't want to call BS because it's not. Like, there's plenty of reasons to think he could regress, especially because, there's a knee biter in town now. So if he gets a knee bitten playing Detroit, he's not coming back from that.
The other part I left out is his touchdown rate last season was the highest of all time.
The highest of all time? How come I've never heard that?
I don't know. You don't watch enough of our show, I guess.
Because you don't talk. Because you don't listen to Sully.
Because you're too busy playing games every day for an hour. I don't know.
I like my games. I like my games.
Because you're in Maryland eating crab cakes.
Brad, really quickly, if he's quarterback 13 this season, would you consider that a bust or no?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay.
It's got to be QB1 and probably top 10 QB1. Otherwise, it's probably a bust for what people have invested in him, I would think. But what do you think, Josh?
No, I think he's probably going to be going around like you mentioned the tier. There's Patrick Mahomes, right? Then there's the Russian quarterbacks like Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and
Russian?
Then you get into Russian. Yeah, they're from Russia. They're a lot of talent, right, from coming out of Russia nowadays. No, the running quarterbacks. How about that? And then that's probably where you're seeing Aaron Rodgers go in a lot of redraft leagues, right? I mean, you can make the argument both ways, but I like what you're saying, Sully. There's going to be regression, but you hit me with the stat: the most efficient touchdown rate ever,
highest touchdown rate. So touchdowns per completion. I believe.
I guess that's kind of efficiency, right? But for me personally, I would not draft him where he's being drafted. I think he's going to – I would rather have personally Dak Prescott. I know the injury, blah, blah, blah. I would rather have Dak Prescott. I'd actually rather have Russell Wilson even still. And
I agree.
When it comes down to it, I'd rather just wait and grab a guy like Ryan Tannehill, So I'm with you.
Agree.
I do. Ryan Tannehill just quietly keeps producing the last few years in Tennessee. I mean, like, people really do not think about how consistent he's been. I watched in all the fish drafts that we were all a part of. I mean, every draft that I've seen a redraft, at least, he just keeps falling down. It's like, why? I mean, he's just so consistent. You get him for such a good price.
I heard a stat today that since he took over as Tennessee starter, I think it was like week 9 or whatever the previous year, he's QB5. That's nuts, right? Like you wouldn't
Can't believe
think
they
that.
gave up on Marcus Mariota, you know.
He'll be okay in Indianapolis when he gets there.
And the
didn't
2000, yeah, he
That
will.
makes sense. That makes sense.
He could. In the 2008, 2009 version of me that drafted Ryan Tannehill in the first round of rookie drafts is going, yes, after getting rid of him because he busted in Miami.
The 2021 version of Roto Heat Sully that decided to go Cam Akers at the 301 instead of Ryan Tannehill in the Scott Fish Bowl, not so happy.
I'm wrestling with that because I'm trying to trade my Cam Akers share, the one Cam Akers share I have, and I just don't think it's going to be worth trading, but I don't want to sit on it either.
In a dynasty league, I'm assuming?
Yeah. It's
not the Scott Fish Bowl.
No, yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I'm dead weight there.
Yeah.
In all honesty, not to turn the channel on the episode here, but if I have Cam Akers, I'm keeping him. I'm just holding him.
You're not.
And if I don't have Cam Akers, I'm going to go try to buy him really cheap.
Somebody offered me Curtis Samuel for him. I'm like, oh,
that might be okay.
What?
Yeah, and exactly, you can't like blame them for making the offer. Like,
no,
Like I wouldn't give you any more in a second.
yeah, that's the point. I'm not trading him away, and I would throw out some cheap offers.
I'm not so sure this is a trade that makes fantasy fun, to be totally honest.
No,
the tough thing for me is this is a team that was rebuilding. It's our Superflex league, Sully, that the Roto Heat Superflex that we do, that kind of off the wall.
I'll trade you. I'll trade for him.
Not a second. I'm not trading for a second. I'll hold him. My team is rebuilding, but
okay. Sorry,
I was trying to trade him anyway, but then he got hurt, and I was like, oh crap.
That's a good point, Brad. Though, like if you're contending, are you trading him? You think? Like, that's the question, right?
If you're contending, you can sit on them if you needed to, or if you wanted to. My push in the line of thinking with trading Cam right now is, hey, I'm not contending, and I won't be next year because I'm still in the middle of rebuilding. Mm-hmm. You could be. Come get him, and then you can let him sit, see if he bounces back, and he's still a big part of the song. There you go. You got him, and you're going to get him at a discount because I'm obviously not going to charge you what I would have. But I'm also not going to take pennies on the dollar. I mean, I at least want fair. Curtis Samuel, I don't hate. I just don't know that I like him in Washington.
I'm not a big Curtis Samuel fan myself.
I like Curtis Samuel if he would have gone to Jacksonville and been reunited with Urban, who knows how to use him. Because with Urban,
but you don't like the reuniting with Rivera and I can't remember the offensive coordinator's name.
Yeah, well, they didn't do anything with him
Scott Turner.
They didn't do anything with him when he was in Carolina. So, what are they going to do with him now?
Okay, I just feel like Curtis Samuel and like Chenault have a very similar skill set, though. So I feel like they would eat into each other a little bit.
They certainly would. Although I think Samuel's faster than Laviska.
Yeah, and Laviska's a bigger dude, isn't he? Bigger.
Yeah, he's more like a running back almost. You know,
he's thick for sure. Yeah. All right, Josh. So who is your? All right. First question. Rick. Superflex. Goff or Akers in a rebuild?
Don't ask me that.
I mean, quite honestly, I would go. I would be okay with Goff in a Superflex. You know, all signs out of Detroit, and obviously I'm the Detroit guy on the team, so I'm very, very much watching on bated breath, is that they really do believe it. They believe in Goff. He was drafted 1 overall, and although he had to deal with 7-9 Jeff Fisher and then Sean McVay, who hated him, Goff has the physical tools to be a successful quarterback. He's got enough wiggle in the pocket. He's got a big arm. If you get him an offense where he can be a play action guy, he could. When I look at him, I'm like, why can't this guy be a Tannehill type of quarterback? He's got the same type of game.
He has not the mobility.
Upgraded situation, I would say, though. But hey, the Lions would build out. They could rebuild. They got DeAndre Swift. But you said it earlier. They have nothing at wide receiver. Nothing.
St. Brown.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. I would take Goff in this scenario rather easily, even though it wouldn't be that easy, simply because of the Superflex format. Obviously, elevates Goff's value. And I'm just one of those guys that really doubts Cam Akers comes back to do much. And I really hope I'm wrong. But I'm going to take a starting quarterback over an injured, maybe never coming back running back. But I can see why people, if you're rebuilding, you would take that shot. Because Goff, by the time your team's ready, is probably not a starting quarterback anymore. So I could see why you would do that. JL
jumping in to
welcome in
to say some nice things. I like it. Yeah. So Josh, did you respond? Are you a Goff or an Akers guy?
In a super flex league, I would have to pick Goff here. I agree with you guys. I think we're going to learn a lot though about people coming back from Achilles injuries, especially this year. We're going to see Marlon Mack. Deontay Foreman just got signed by the Falcons, which is kind of exciting. Not
Very
exciting.
Sexy. Oh, it's exciting. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, you guys need to get, if that excites you, you guys need to get out more.
Hey, it's football, guys.
Sure.
So we're going to learn a lot about Achilles injuries. And I think if we can see Marlon Mack or Foreman like do anything relevant, people are going to be excited for Akers going into the next season.
I agree. It's another reason why you hold on to him, because his value might actually start to creep back up if those two guys can somewhat perform. I agree.
Well, and to go back to Deontay Foreman, the former third-round pick of the Texans, he went to Atlanta, who the offensive coordinator from Tennessee brought him in and had the best average per carry that he's had in his career with Tennessee last year, with the 7 carries he had or whatever. Like why couldn't he push for playing time? Mike Davis has not been able to hold up under a full 16 game slate. I don't know that he's really truly gotten the opportunity to, but like, why can't they have that? Why can't he get an opportunity there? I mean, obviously they saw enough that they brought him in. He's been at Tennessee with the now head coach of the Falcons. Like, I mean, obviously it could be just me not being the hugest Mike Davis fan, thinking, okay, well, who else is there? Because they got nothing behind him. Quadri Allison's not great. The kid they drafted this year, or maybe he was a college free agent, I can't think of his name, Javian Hawkins. Yeah, I'm intrigued by him, but different kind of player, not the big bag.
So different.
You know? So
he'll probably be a third down scat back, more or less. I feel like kind of deal.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously they didn't spend much on him, and he was a camp addition, so it's not like if they
why not, right? Totally.
Why not? You know. So Miguel says best draft strategy got Metcalf 6th round holdover. I like Metcalf. I'm a fan of Metcalf. I mean, if you got him in the 6th round, then you got very lucky.
That doesn't make sense, but yeah.
I'm assuming it's a keeper league, and he kept him at a 6th round value.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
That makes sense, and that's a good value for sure.
Very true. So if that's the case, there you go. Josh, who is your bust?
The first guy I want to talk about as a bust is Kenny Gallaudet. And listen up, I know that the injury concerns are hitting him right now, so it's even easier to call him a bust, but I have been kind of against Kenny Gallaudet ever since he signed with the Giants. Listen, he's got the prototypical size, and he's a very good receiver. He's 6'4", 215 pounds, and he proved with the Lions he's pretty freaking good, right? So we know the talent's there. The real problem is not the talent. Okay, the situation he's in is the Giants. You're going from Matthew Stafford to Daniel Jones, and that just does not excite me. Daniel Jones likes to throw the deep ball. You know, he throws it a lot, but he's not Matthew Stafford. He's not nearly as accurate as Matthew Stafford. Gallaudet thrives on those big plays, and he thrives on the touchdowns. He had 11 receiving touchdowns in 2019 and was a top 10 receiver. And I love saying the stat. And Daniel Jones had how many touchdowns last year? Take a guess.
11, I think.
Yeah, there we go. So something's got to give. I don't see Gallaudet having a excellent fantasy season, and he's still getting drafted even with these injury concerns above guys that I would much rather have. And the Giants' offensive line is one of the worst in the leagues, paired with one of Jason Garrett. Don't get me started on Jason Garrett. I'm not excited for Jason Garrett. So I don't know if they're going to be creative in getting him the ball. Saquon Barkley's coming back. The Giants have a lot of other talent. We have Sterling Shepard. He's an underrated receiver who can constantly just produces. Darius Slayton, he's proved a lot throughout his career. Kadarius Toney was a first-round pick. Say what you will about Evan Ingram, right? But he's talented. He's got talent, and he will get targets. Gallaudet does fill a role for that offense. You know, he's a big guy, but they're going to take away targets from Gallaudet, and I just don't see where he can really become this receiver that gives you value where you're drafting him.
Take it, Brad.
Well, I actually like to take, I feel like we almost should just say the New York Giants are a bust this year. Like, it's hard to get excited about as good as talented as so many of these players are. The coaching staff and what they're doing there just makes me feel bad for every player on that team. I'm like, gosh, it's hard to want to invest in any of them as much as I love Saquon. I'm a Slayton guy. I have Slayton in multiple leagues. Even Sterling Shepard, I still have a few Sterling Shepard shares.
Me too.
Evan Ingram, I've attempted to buy, but I wasn't paying for him when he was available, and now people are holding him to wait and see. So it's like, I like the players. I don't know that I like the staff, head coach, offensive coordinator, the whole thing. Like, they've got a really, really good defense, and that'll be something that keeps them in games. But I still think they're going to lean on the run to set up the pass if Saquon's healthy. It's just hard for me to see how they're going to be able to support 2, 3, 4 options in this passing game. So, yeah, odd man out, I would think it would either be Tony or Slayton, but Gallaudet certainly could be because he doesn't stay healthy anyway. So I don't knock the take.
Brad, how early would you take Saquon? I'm just wondering because you said you're completely out on him, and is he a first round guy in a redraft league for you?
I think he has to be.
Yes,
I don't think. I think I've skipped over him the few times he's been available when I drafted in the first. But
I like him at the end of the first so much more than even mid first. To be honest with you.
And if guys like Nick Chubb or some of these other running backs are there, I'm probably going to lean on them because they haven't been hurt recently. But Saquon's more talented than those guys.
He is. He's the most talented running back in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah. You can make the case him, CMC, Kamara. Those are kind of like the top 3 for sure. But Rick says, wait, what?
Wait, what to what?
What to what? So that's kind of for me. Saquon still has to be in the conversation. If it's a standard redraft, Superflex, obviously all bets are off. Sully, what's your take on Kenny G and that the bust label?
I don't mind the take at all. I think what I find interesting though is when we look at the quarterback comparison, Kenny Gallaudet is a wide receiver that I think scored about 8 touchdowns in a half a season with Jeff Driscoll and David Blau as his quarterbacks. So I think that the potential is there for him to do well, but I really think it all just comes down to health, obviously. Like when he's full, and he's already banged up, so we've already kind of touched on that. But there's a lot of pass catchers there, right? There's Ingram, there's Tony, there's Shepard, there's Slayton, there's Barkley's pass catching ability. Devontae Booker can catch passes. Like, there's a ton of dudes on that team that can catch passes. So I'd say, yeah, he probably does for where he's being drafted right now. I'd probably go in a different direction. So I'm not going to fight the take in any way. Could he prove us all wrong? Sure. Will he? Probably not.
That's what I'm saying.
What's up, Chris? I saw Chris jump in the chat. It's good to see you, buddy. Rick says, so the what is Saquon is definitely a first rounder.
So I'll tell you this. I just recently did my redraft rankings, and I have Saquon at 13. But that was when I thought he was going to miss a couple of games to start the season. So now that he's looking like he's coming back in week 1, I'll move him back in, but he won't go up that high. I'll probably go 10, 11 at the highest.
Yeah, I was just trying to look through some of my previous drafts. I took Saquon at the 201 in the Fishbowl League. That's the latest I've seen him go.
I took him at the 112 in that same draft, so I guess I should just shut up. I would take him in the first round because I did.
Way to go.
Well, the Scott Fishbowl is a tournament where you have to shoot for the upside, so that makes more sense. If everything goes right for Saquon, he has the potential to be the number 1 overall running back easily.
Absolutely.
So I don't hate that.
And I'm currently got the IDP guys invitational league draft going. I was just looking to see where it was in there. And I think Saquon got drafted, but I don't think where did he go? He wasn't a first rounder. He went at the, what was that, 2, 3, 2, 4. I mean, he went.
Is that a super flex
and
component to it as well?
These are all super flex.
It is super flex. obviously full IDP super flex.
Josh, do you remember where he went in your standard mock? He went at 6, didn't he? Didn't
Yes.
Zeke go at 5 and he went at 6?
You're
'Cause
absolutely
Jay
correct.
and
And
Craig
Team
flipped,
and Jay
right?
did not take Saquon Barkley, took Ezekiel Elliott over him, which is kind of nuts because he's a big Giants fan.
He's a faux Giants fan. I think he's fake.
But it wasn't a PPR league. So
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, that does matter here, I think. I would take Zeke over Saquon for sure in a standard league.
Gotcha. Brad, you got a bust?
Not Taylor. Taylor's not a bust for sure. He's here to harass Josh.
Taylor's legit. Taylor's
That's the way to do it.
solid first-round selection in any format.
Yeah, mid to late, but yeah, sure.
I would draft Taylor over Joe Burrow. That's for sure.
Well, that's kind of like a slap in his face at the same time as you're complimenting him. So I don't know how to take that.
Yeah. Because that's going to be my first bust. I'm going Joe Burrow as a bust. And I don't want to say he's a dynasty bust, but I'm looking at more of a 2021 bust conversation. When I got ready for this show, I really tried to focus on the redraft. Oh my, he's got lots of things.
He's upset.
He's about to be out of here.
Taylor
Yeah,
is the
never
Taylor
mind.
is the 101, and Burrow is big. All right, I'm done posting this comment, but he's not listening anymore. So now that he's covering his earmuffs, I think in 2021. I can see him having trouble, like we talked about earlier in the show. There's so many questions, and he looks to be playing like he's trying to be careful to not re-injure himself. So all those things together, that's where I'm like, okay, we're hearing all these things. And Taylor, maybe you can get in the chat and tell us what's going on with all these conversations about Jamar not being able to separate and T. Higgins staring off in the distance and not being able to separate either, and Joe being afraid to throw the ball because of his legs. And to me, it just feels very odd. And where people are going after him, he still hasn't quite proven it like some of these other guys that should go, like Dak. I mean, Dak is coming back from injury as well, but he's proven it before. Like he's been a high end piece. So I would be afraid to jump on him as kind of a QB1 in a redraft format. In Dynasty, I own Burrow, and people have tried to trade for him, and I just tell them to go lick dirt. So, Sully, what do you think about Burrow as a potential 2021 bust?
I hate it because I like him, but I don't hate the take.
Neither is Taylor.
I wonder if the man is truly ready to be back, right? Like, when did he tore his ACL and his MCL, and I think it was week 6 or 7.
Injure his PCL too?
Might as well, right? Like if you're gonna do 2, get them all done, right? But I think it was like December, wasn't it, when he injured himself? So he's coming back.
Wasn't it against Pittsburgh? Yeah, it was week 10. Taylor said. I thought it was against Pittsburgh or something.
So that's late, right? Like he was taking a beating all year before that, right? So, Washington, that's right.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
In Dynasty, I have zero worries about him. I'll just ride it out and let him get healthy and improve. And if it's redraft and I get him at a good value, I'm just going to insulate myself later on with one of these rookie guys like Lance or Fields or whatever, who I think probably don't start off that great, but will help me out in the end. So, or I'll go the opposite direction and grab a Ryan Fitzpatrick for the first 4 weeks of the season.
You crossed my mind right when you said that.
So I do think Joe Burrow probably busts because he's a former first overall draft pick. But man, I think the sky's the limit for him still going forward.
Yeah, in
Josh.
regard to that, I feel exactly how you guys feel. Redraft, I'm a little nervous. Dynasty, not very nervous at all. In a redraft league, I am not taking him very high. I'm waiting, especially in a one quarterback league. I'll take him like as one of the last people that draft a quarterback for sure in the later rounds. But I'm not reaching for Joe Burrow. I'm worried about the rushing ability even. I think it was mentioned earlier, but is he going to run? I mean, that's a kind of a big part of his game. And if he's not running, then I'm out.
And even not even the running, right? The mobility to roll out and extend plays and all those types of things. You're 100% right.
Yes.
Well, if they do things right and they let him sit through the preseason and get healthy, he should be fine. Like if I was Cincinnati, this kid's not playing a preseason game.
Sounds like he's not. At least he's not playing the first one. So we'll see.
I wouldn't play him in any. I mean,
plus he should have a new coach next year too. So that probably helps.
Are you sure? Because Zach Taylor seems to be moving this team in the right direction. I don't know if they would get rid of him this quickly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a Taylor fan per se, but, do you think that Taylor does enough to get himself relieved this year?
I think Taylor just nailed it in the chat.
Oh, dude, that would be disgusting.
Think about how that offense is put together right now, right? Like if Joe Brady comes in and takes over that team, that makes way too much sense. Probably way too much sense for Cincinnati to do it. And Cincinnati does kind of like to hang on to their coaches for 15 to 20 years. But at the same time, I think Taylor is done after this season unless they somehow make the playoffs. And
I love that they kept Marvin Jones. Sorry. As a Ravens fan.
I bet you are. But yeah, I think that Taylor nailed it in the chat and Matt nailed it in the chat as well, which will upset Taylor.
I'm okay with them not doing it because my Lions got him, and
absolutely, as you should be.
He's in camp. He's been everything and more. Like that dude is a monster in camp so far. I mean,
yeah, that was a no-brainer.
He's knocking around veterans, and it's looking easy. And our defensive line's not terrible. So
it was a no-brainer for Cincinnati where they picked, and it was an absolute no-brainer when he fell to you guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
so Rick's saying he's healthy, but it's all in his head now.
I've heard that as well.
Is he going to start seeing ghosts? Or we got another Darnold on our hand?
I don't think so. I think that, I don't know, maybe he just needs to get popped and get up and realize that he can get popped and get up. Sometimes that's what you need. So
the Alex Smith treatment. Gotcha. No, I mean, that's what Alex Smith said before his, having to go back in his first start. I mean, like he needed to get hit to realize he's going to be okay.
I think obviously, we hear that from a lot of guys or something similar, It's just like, you just need to get in there, right? Actually feel the speed of the game.
It's safe to say you get knocked down, but you get up again.
Oh, good Lord. Dad jokes. Craig's not even working tonight.
Craig's got the night off. All right, Sully, who's the next bust for you?
All right, you want my wide receiver, my running back, or my tight end?
Yes.
Tight end. Is it Kyle Pitts?
No, as if. And no, I don't want to do my tight end. So do you want my running back or my wide receiver? Screw it. I'm going to do my wide receiver, and it's DJ Shark.
What kind of crap is that?
What kind of crap is what?
You give us options, then you take all the options away.
Do you want me to do the running back then?
Are you being a jerk off? We said tight end.
Okay, Mike Goseki.
Nah.
Well, he just came off the COVID list, right? Or he just got activated from whatever he was on.
Yeah, so Mike Goseki played more snaps lined up in the slot than any tight end in the NFL last season. I believe that the addition of Jalen Waddle is a major blow to Mike Goseki. Now, I do think that the majority of the Miami offense is going to happen around the line of scrimmage. I think that there'll be a lot of quick shots to Will Fuller when he's not suspended. Waddle, maybe Goseki, the running backs, both Gaskin and Malcolm Brown can catch the odd pass. So I just think that Goseki's not going to see the volume that he's seen in previous seasons. I don't think he's going to tumble down to be tight end 18 or 19, but I don't think he's worth much of anything. There's much more there's tight end value that I like a lot later that I think you can get cheaper. So, I like so many more tight ends like Gerald Everett later on in a redraft or even in Dynasty at this point. I would have liked this take even more if Hunter Long didn't get carted off the field this week, but it is what it is. But yeah, Mike Goseki's my tight end.
So Mike Aseki's sitting around tight end 13 in a redraft format.
Yeah.
And who's ahead of him? So Evan Ingram's ahead of him, Tanyan, Fant.
Where's Troutman right now?
Troutman is at 19. Okay, so behind Goseki right now is Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, Irv Smith Jr., Zach Ertz, Troutman, Jared Cook, Gerald Everett, Ferkser, Blake Jarwin. I mean, I would almost consider.
Did you just name the same name 12 times?
I'd want almost all of them. I want almost all of them. Other than Hunter Henry.
It's like a big old tier,
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, I don't know that he scores more fantasy points than any of those guys. Zach Ertz, I think he could for sure.
Yeah.
But
I think if I remember correctly, he did all his damage with Ryan Fitzpatrick as well. When Tua played, he was almost a ghost.
Tua's not one to target the tight end that much. I mean, think about even his time at Alabama. He focused on the outside guys a lot. those deep shots and kind of everything out here in here to the tight end. Not so much. So I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good take. At 13, it's not worth it. When I would rather Irv Smith, who obviously you would know better than anybody, is with your Vikings, but I would rather him. I would take a shot on Trotman because at this point he's probably wide receiver 1 on the team.
Yep.
Gerald Everett, I don't know that I'm super excited about because Seattle and the tight ends, I just don't know where those targets are going to come from.
I'd rather have Everett.
But I would rather have everything Goseki right now.
When you factor in where you're drafting them, I would rather have Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
I think that's the big point here is like I'm not reaching for any of these guys. I'm waiting until I find a time where I feel like I have to kind of jump on these guys. If I'm waiting on my tight end, if I'm not getting one of those early ones, I'm not reaching on any of these guys. I'm taking wide receivers and running backs, stacking up on those guys.
Look at Rick coming in here saying you're all wrong. Every one of you. I'm taking Aseki over all of them. So
and if he's drafting with us, he can have him.
And if Goseki falls to the really late rounds, I'll take him too.
Of course.
There you go. All right. So Cameron, welcome to the chat. What do you guys think in a Dynasty Superflex trading A-Rob for Sutton and Josh Jacobs? There's no other context to that, so it's just player for players. We don't know if he's rebuilding or if he's contending, So if you want to add some context, Cameron, that'd be great.
I like that you told us it was a super flex league.
That does help.
I'm messing around with you,
although
Cameron.
There's no quarterbacks involved, so really doesn't.
No, I know. I'm messing around.
As a Cortland Sutton guy, I lean on the package because I love Josh Jacobs and I love Sutton. But man, Allen Robinson is a high-end wide receiver 1. I mean, he's top 10 easily. So I think you got to go with the elite player on this side of the conversation that's proven it. So I think you have to go Allen Robinson. But me personally, I probably would smash the except for getting Sutton and Josh Jacobs, honestly. But
what do you think,
Josh? And Josh Jacobs all day.
Really? Hey,
I love Allen Robinson too, but I'm fans of all three of these guys. But I think Cortland Sutton has. I'm not going to say elite talent, but he is extremely talented. In a poor situation, I get it, but I think the Broncos will figure it out eventually. He's still young, a lot younger than Allen Robinson, but both Josh Jacobs and Sutton. Yeah. And Josh Jacobs, out of all these guys, Josh Jacobs is kind of like my guy on that. Like I love Josh Jacobs. So maybe I got some personal bias in there, but I think Josh Jacobs is great. So I'm taking that side of this trade, actually, believe it or not.
It's tough for me because like Brad said, there's no context there, right? If I'm a contending team, I want Allen Robinson all day, every day.
Yeah.
If I'm middling or I'm rebuilding, I probably will lean to the package. But on the Sutton Jacobs side, you're taking on all the risk in that trade. We don't really know how Sutton's coming back from the injury. We don't know what John Gruden and his crazy plan is for that offense. That offensive line in Las Vegas is different, not for the good, but for the worse. And Allen Robinson is about to play with the best quarterback he's ever played with, arguably in his life. And I don't, even if it's Andy Dalton, he's playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with in his life. His quarterbacks in college, go back to Penn State. They were terrible there. And I apologize to whoever was throwing the football down Robinson in high school. I don't know who you are, but I'm sure you were pretty good. But at the end of the day, he could have 170 targets this year.
He could.
He's at 150 for like the last, I don't know how many.
Is that Cole Kmet?
3 or 4
Are we
years.
talking about Cole Kmet?
No, he was almost my bust tight end, but I know you guys would get mad at him. So.
I would remove you from the street.
He's a year away from being an absolute stud, but I think this year he disappoints you.
Oh man, I think Cole.
But anyway, long story short, I'm contending. I'm taking Allen Robinson. Not contending. I will take and roll the dice on those two players. I agree with Josh. I do like Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, Sutton is an elite talent. Josh Jacobs, and Cameron, I understand the concern with them bringing in Kenyon Drake, but we already saw Jalen Richard's hurt, so we don't necessarily know exactly how Drake fits into this equation with Rashard and Jake. Like Jacobs should still get 250 touches. Like that, it almost seems like a given in my mind that he gets somewhere between 225 and 250. I think is safe, but that's just my personal opinion because he's proven it. Like he's played hard and he's produced. I know that John Gruden wants to have 78 running backs all get involved, but I don't see Drake as nearly as a concern in my mind. So take the package if you're rebuilding or in the middle of the pack, and then if you're competing, take it. Stick with Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Jacobs had 306 touches last year, so I think you're right. He'll probably still be in that range.
Look at that. I was even lower. Like that. Oh, that must be rushing.
I'm not worried about Jacobs, guys.
Yeah,
or
I'm not
that much worried. I still expect him to have a fantastic season.
Our next bus, Josh Jacobs. No,
man, he's got really good numbers. Hey,
yeah,
1,100 rushing yards in his first season, 1,065 last year. He scored 19 touchdowns in 2 seasons. If they had ever thrown the football, look the hell out.
Oh, that's what Kenyon Drake's there. He's going to take all the passes.
And he's a good pass catcher coming out of college. That's kind of the role that you expected him to play.
Exactly. He was a really good pass catcher in college.
He's got another level. So Cameron says, only problem with my team is I only have Chris Carson and James Robinson as running backs next in line.
Get Josh Jacobs in there.
So you had Josh Jacobs. Now you have 2 RB1s because Chris Carson is an RB1 this year. Like,
yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind. As long as he's healthy and plays, that dude is a beast. So him and Josh Jacobs as your 2 running backs, and then Sutton slides in as probably wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 potential as long as he's healthy. Drew Locke gives him a better chance of being fantasy relevant. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater really helps his value as much as it does Noah Fant. I mean, really, I would be my guess because of arm strength. So I don't know. I would take the package if I were you, if I was, in the middle or rebuilding, like we said.
I would too.
And then Allen Robinson if you're competing. Because if you're competing, Carson is a very serviceable running back. And then James Robinson is a fine flex for you, and then you're trotting out an extra receiver or something.
Even if he's competing, I'm taking the package personally.
Oh, he's bringing the hot.
I don't mind it. I just think Allen Robinson is special, and
he is.
He could have the 1,412 or whatever he had that year in Jacksonville this year again. So, regardless of his age, I don't care how old he is. He could be 42, and I think he has the potential to do that this year.
You said 1,412. Are we talking about David Montgomery?
David Montgomery. No, that's another bust. No, I'm kidding. I like David Montgomery a lot this year.
Shut your dirty mouth. David Montgomery will be fine this year.
We're running out of time for busts. I think we're out of time. I don't know what's going on anymore.
We are. We've run over time. So,
Josh, who else did you have on your bust list?
Leonard Fournette, who I was very excited to talk about because he's gonna bust. Brandon Ayuk, not so excited to talk about because I think he's super talented, but I just don't think he's gonna be it, and I think you're overdrafting him.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, that's it. I'll stop there.
Did you bring anything else to the show today, Brad? Who did you have?
I brought Rob Sullivan, who is clearly a bust at this point.
I'm way overdrafted. My running back that I wanted to talk about and didn't, but I've probably talked about it every other week, is Derrick Henry. And my wide receiver was DJ Shark because he's poop.
I don't know, man. So my only thing about DJ Shark is I don't know if Urban Meyer can get the best out. Like Urban Meyer's been pushing him. Like when you've heard him talk about, so I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but he's really been working hard at building up Shark as this physical receiver, and it sounds like Shark is rising to the occasion. Like I heard the opposite. I heard he was having a terrible.
There have been reports of both, guys. I swear. I've talked about this before. I still
think they're trying to move him.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I don't really care one way or the other. Like I like Shark. I've been a Shark guy, but it's not like I'm not like him. Like I would be on Sutton. Like Sutton, I would fight you. Like he'll be good.
Yeah.
Shark, I'm like, okay, if he isn't good, well, he was a second round pick. Doesn't surprise me. If he is good,
so much upside and so much downside. You know what I'm saying? So much upside, but just as much downside. So
I'd much rather have Laviska or ETN or I don't know in that offense. And the way Meyer, if he's going to run that offense like he did at Ohio State, Laviska is the guy to have in that offense. And I'm currently working on a piece that takes all of the top 12 rookie quarterbacks since 2010. There's been 7 of them, and what they did in their offense and what they produce. So how did their running backs produce? How did their wide receivers produce? And the guy that he's compared to the most is Andrew Luck. He had a top 12 wide receiver. The only guy out of this group so far that I've gotten through that is a top 12 wide receiver. And Andrew Luck didn't take over a typical team that should be picking first overall. They just happened to have Peyton Manning take a year off with a neck injury. So I think we're overstating what Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars offense can be. And that's another reason why I think Shark busts, because also he's only had 4, 5, 6, 7 really good games in his career, and the rest have been rather disappointing.
Very true. All right, last question to end the show. Anthony wants to know, what do you think about OBJ? See him going above T. Higgins, Chase, Claypool, Debo in recent drafts. Josh, what do you think about OBJ?
Yeah, I don't normally love to project injuries. If there is someone to project them for, it might be OBJ though. But if he stays healthy all season, I think he's going to be pretty darn valuable. He's still a great receiver. He's got a lot of talent. I would take him above T. Higgins and Debo Samuel for sure. Chase Claypool is where I draw the line. I'm taking Chase Claypool above him.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. He's only had 2 seasons where he's played in 16 games. So, and he's been in the league since 2014.
Yeah,
I want to love him. I just love him so much. I just want him to be good again. I'm taking Higgins, and then I will go OBJ, Claypool, Samuel.
Yeah, probably. I like OBJ. I like Samuel. I think Claypool was one I was going to bring up as a guy that could bust a bit this year. With Najee and them wanting the new emphasis on the running game and all that. Like,
do you see that catch he made in the preseason?
I saw him drop the ball a few times.
We might have to go 2 hours because Claypool was this close to being my wide receiver bust as well.
I that would be great because then there'd be some heat in the room.
Well, you're gonna have to come back, son.
Yeah. So there you go, Anthony. That's what we think. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. The chat's been fire tonight. It's been a good time. Josh, as we always do before we go, tell everyone where they can find you, what you've got going on. The floor is yours, my friend. Thank you for joining us. We love having you.
Thank you for having me on, guys. I had a great time. I really did. But I am a co-host on the Fantasy Football Game Show presented by Front Yard Fantasy. We're live streaming every week at 3 o'clock, every weekday, Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern time, Monday through Friday, guys, every weekday. Let's go. You can find us on YouTube at Front Yard Fantasy. Also, you can find us on Twitch, Front Yard Fantasy, same thing. Find us on Twitter at Front Yard FYF and me on Twitter at FYF Josh. We're also going into our fourth week of live streaming on FanDuel's Twitch on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's called the Front Yard Fantasy Hour. It's on FanDuel's Twitch. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you like fantasy football, you probably heard of them. But both the shows, we just like to have a good time, while also providing some pretty good fantasy knowledge. So we have guests on every show, and we'd like to play games. So come on and check us out.
That's it. And if you guys haven't checked it out, you better do it because they do an excellent job.
Yeah,
we have been honored to be able to
get over there and subscribe to their channel and click the damn bell and watch the show. It's worth it. Josh, isn't there anything else you'd want to share?
Oh, trading makes fantasy fun, guys. Do you know this information? Have you heard this information?
Scott told me. Scott Fish told me.
Yeah, it's his new slogan. Yeah, he's been running out there.
I think he
got it on all his duffel bags.
I thought I heard him come up with that, didn't he?
He did. It was completely him, all his own, not me at all. Definitely
embroidered on all his duffel bags.
It's bad.
Thanks, 20-incher, baby, 20-incher. Sullivan, it's always a pleasure. Who do we have up for next week's show?
I think it's Terra time next week.
It is.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time next week.
Really looking forward to that.
Hopefully y'all enjoy this week's games of preseason. We got a full slate starting Thursday night. So enjoy football. Hopefully it doesn't treat you like the Hall of Fame game. Thank you guys for hanging out with us as always. If you guys need us, we are always here to help. Like, subscribe, hit the notification icon. We love you, and we'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it. You want to.